wish that I could fly into the sky so very high, just like a dragonfly. I fly above the trees, over the seas, in all degrees, to anywhere I please. Oh, I want to get away. I wanna fly away.
Traffic Yankee Hotel with Charlie Harvey. Contact downwind. Runway 10 slots.
I wanna fly away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's go and see the stars, the Milky Way, or even Mars, where it could just be ours. Let's fade into the sun, let your spirit fly, where we are one, just for a little fun. Oh, oh, oh yeah! I want to get away. I wanna fly away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to get away. I wanna fly away. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're at Lightning Ridge and we're gonna do the red car tour. This is the first tour on the red car tour. This is Amigo's castle.
And what's in Amigo's castle?
Trapdoor,
Dungeons,
dungeons, and
tunnels, secret tunnels.
secret tunnels. Astronomer's Monument, a curious concrete folio. It has a temple of inscriptions in memory of famous astronomers. We're now doing the blue door. Today we're doing the yellow car door tour and the chamber of the Black Hand.
So they've got their shafts that go down and they put air holes up so you can get oxygen.
along around this way with me and we'll do the mine tour, guys. It's an old piece of tin that's been there for roughly 80 years. It's painted black and it's cut in the shape of a hand with a finger pointing. It's a directional sign. All us locals for years have just called this area the Black Hand. We all know exactly where it is. Now it's not the oldest field here at Lightning Ridge, but it is one of the earliest. It's 102 to 105 years old in mining activity. There are contractors now that will come out and drill a hole for you at $60 a metre. And of course in the old days it was all by hand, crowbar, pick, shovel, hammer and gads. Gads is a star chisel. You'd hit it with your hammer, you'd turn the chisel, you'd hit it, you'd keep doing that, and you could do a shot hole for explosives with it. Some of the old miners did use explosives up top in that hard, sharp, angular rock you came through in the stairway. It's got a well-earned name, Shin Cracker, and that explains everything, that name. To get up and down their hand-sunk shafts, the old fellas would dig a hole on either side, and with a hand and foot on either side, that was their ladder up and down the hole. I tried it a couple of times when I was younger and I wasn't keen on it. And in the very early days there was a practical joker here. If he knew his friends were downstairs mining, he'd leave a little surprise in the top hole, and as his friends would climb up they'd put their hand in it. I won't tell you what it was, but it would give you the poops. And I think I'd be out for revenge. Now for you that just turned up, these two fellows here, Ron thinks it took 20 hours to complete. He drew a picture on the wall, dug it out roughly with a pick, and the serrated edge marks on those eagles, they were made with a butter knife and kitchen fork. To get a smooth finish, he used to wear a garden glove and rub the sandstone with his hand, but after 16 years, he picked up a piece of steel wool, he tried that, now the glove's in retirement. The man's never had an art lesson, so he is learning as he goes. Now there's a few footy teams on the roof and the walls as we go down, take pictures if you like. Right hand turn at the bottom, and you taller ones, you're going to have to watch your head. I'm sure you're going to top out. Come on down.
They actually let you touch them because you like we don't know if you touch them. Well, they didn't say not to, did they? Oh, the football. Unbelievable.
Down a mine, underground?
Yep.
You're being very brave. You can see it's a different colour and texture to the sandstone up above where Ron's done the carvings. There's the bottom of that sandstone there, we use it as our roof. Now we just call that the level. The level does vary in depth from opal field to opal field and oddly enough from claim to claim. The ground out here in the past has been very active. 30 k's out to the west at a field called Dooley's. I worked there for a fair while. My roof wasn't flat like this. In the past, it tilted on a 45-degree angle. It was hard ground to work. We had to follow that sandstone up, but we did very well out of that claim. Like I said, it does vary in depth. Over at the first commercial field here at Lightning Ridge, a little field called Nobbies, the opal dirt comes right up to the surface. And that's how the first opal was found here, laying in the gravel. And it was found by a boundary rider's wife. She'd done a day's work in the camp. She went for a walk around the edge of the ridges and she picked a bit of opal up laying in the gravel, and it all started from there thanks to you ladies. You like your shiny stuff, girls. Thanks for starting the industry in Lightning Ridge. Alright, now, whilst we dig through that clay, we do find fossils because that clay was laid down about 120 million years ago. Lightning Ridge was once at the edge of an inland sea, the Eromanga Sea, and what we're standing in now, old riverbeds that ran into the sea. Like I said, we do find fossils, dinosaur bones, turtle shell, crocodile teeth, even the armoured scoot plates on the back of a crocodile, we get those here fossilised as well. Pine cones, seed pod sticks, twigs, mussel shells, it goes on and on. I've found plenty of sticks and twigs the size of my fingers, but some friends of mine working 40 kilometres off to the north at a field called Jag Hill, they found a 10-metre tree laying in the clay. It was about that round. I've never seen or heard of another piece of wood that big being found. And unfortunately for the miners, it wasn't opalised. If it was, they probably would have been multi-millionaires and would never have had to work again in their lives. It just petrified. It turned to stone. But they've brought a big chunk up. They're going to put it on display in the Opal and Fossil Centre when it's eventually built. Visitors will get to see it. Now, I asked the lady at the Fossil Centre what sort of tree she thought it was, and she said a Wallamai pine. If it's true, and I did say if it's true, that's neat because they only grow in one little area in the Blue Mountains now. Alright, opal is formed in that clay in a hollow void. It's a water silica solution. When it was first laid down, it was a bit like jelly and it's gone hard under the pressure. Over the millions of years, the clay's expanded and contracted numerous times, and it does help to form your opal. I'm under the impression that opal is still being formed today. Occasionally out at Dooley's we get a knobby, and they're those nodules that appear in the clay. They were very much like an onion. They were layered. Whenever the clay would expand, another layer would form on the outside. And occasionally out there we get a knobby that was hollow but full of water. I'll be polite, we called them P1SS knobbies. When you'd hit them underground and you'd break them open, they'd P1SS themselves. Scientists would have gone mad trying to analyse what was in that water, and here was silly me down there tasting it. I analysed it, it was as salty as could be. It was full of mineral salts. Now the knobbies, they're unique to Lightning Ridge. We only get... Those knobbies do vary in size, anywhere from half the size of a pea to as big as an emu egg. There's even a field 30 k's out called emus, because the knobbies there were as big as emu eggs. Some miners there did very well, they had colour in theirs, but most of the time you're just being teased. You find potch, that's opal with no colour, or low grade colour like that piece most of the time. You can work for 6, 8, 12 months, not find anything or very little. You might go underground one day, you or your workmate, your partner might say, look, I'm sick of going that way, we haven't been getting anything, can we go that way? Sometimes when you change direction underground, the opal's been just in behind the wall the whole time and you've been walking beside it. Miners have walked on top of it and underneath it as well. You can see by the clay up top here, it's fairly plain and blocky looking all the way around, yet that pillar over there, that dirt's a lot different looking, it's a lot crumblier. And that's what we call a blow, and they're formed from water being blown out of the artesian basin in the past, up through the sandstone below, into the opal dirt, percolating it I guess, and pushing the opal dirt into the roof. And if there was any opal, pushing that up there as well. Now I've got a couple of friends, they work right on the edge of town at a field called Hatter's Flat. They went to work one morning, started their generator, looked down the hole and they had no lights going. They climbed down with a torch. When they eventually got to the bottom, they'd realised they'd had a cave in overnight. It had torn all the light leads down. When they eventually got their lights working, they had a good look at the cave in, and the dirt laying on the floor was full of opal. They'd been walking underneath it for months already and didn't even know it was above them. And that was sheer good luck. Good luck no one was under it when it caved in. Good luck they were still working that claim to get the dirt off the floor. Now I was shown one of those big ice cream containers. It was half full, every stone in there was a gem, and they were all 20 and 50 cent piece in size. When old Jim showed me that container, I said, Jim, it's lovely mate, but please, take it away. You're making me jealous. We all like to see good opal, but we wish it was ours straight away. And there was an old fellow here, old Drisey, if you put a nice opal in his hands, he'd look at it and say, I wish it was mine. Then he'd look at you and say, I wish you had one better. Lovely old fellow. Lovely old fellow. Now you do get seam here, and it's a flat sheet or a vein of opal that runs through the level or just under the roof. 60 k's out to the west, they only have seam. There's a piece of seam up here near the roof. In the past, that clay opened up, the water silica solution ran in and filled that crack or void, and that little bit there, eventually, it did run right across the roof. And there's even a bit of green right above your head at that timber wedge there. It was too thin, the old boys have left it there. They wouldn't have been able to do much with it. Now that seam does get fairly thick. Recently, 60 k's out to the west, they found a chunk out there that weighed 2 kilograms in weight. I don't know if it's true. Lightning Ridge runs on rumour, but apparently they sold that piece for $3 million. And out there it's more like the ridge was 70 or 80 years ago. There's no town, but a lot of people living in the bush on the surrounding fields. They've even got 3 pubs in the scrub out there. The man that sold the bit for $3 million, he raced out and bought 2 of those pubs straight away. Now you could say he's got 3 of the best claims there. 2 pubs in the claim he got the opal from. And only a couple of weeks ago, one of the miners in the same area went down the mine. All he wanted to do was clean up a bit of dirt laying on the floor, and as he's going along scraping it up, he hit an even bigger chunk in the floor than the $3 million piece. Apparently there's a picture of his kids standing side by side and the opal goes around the back of their feet. I often say some miners hit up the you-know-what with a rainbow, and some miners don't know what a rainbow looks like. I've seen one occasionally. Now your claims here are 50 metres by 50 metres square. You're allowed 2 claims in your name and you must look after your name. It's roughly $1,000 to register a claim. $700 of it is bond. On the new fields, when you're finished, you must backfill your shaft, clean up your mess on the top, rehabilitate. If it's all right, you'll get your $700 back. If not, the mines department keep it, put you in a blacklist book, and they'll charge you twice as much bond next time. $300 registration fee as well, and you pay that once a year, every year, just like your car rego. If you don't, your claim lapses and anybody can renew it. Doesn't matter whether your equipment's in the mine or not. They don't own the gear, they only own the mine. Now that sort of thing happens a fair bit. Upstairs, opposite the showcase, there's a picture of a young man with a big opal in his hands. It's valued at over $1 million worth. Him and his brother went to America to the Gem Expo, and while they were away, they both forgot to renew one of their claims. One of the local miners got an updated version of the map. He saw a circle around their number. He knew what they were getting. He raced out, pegged it, paid the fee. There was nothing the brothers could do when they came back from the States. And the fellows that renewed their claim, they showed me some of the opal they got too. And again, the first thing they did when they went to work there was clean up the loose dirt laying on the floor. Some of the opal that was laying on the floor were valued at $22,000, $18,000, $12,000. The 2 brothers had sport themselves rotten. I never left any dirt behind. There's always a chance of opal being in it. They might as well have left a stack of hundreds on the floor and just walked away from them. Sheer madness what they did. And when they lost their claim, I thought it was a case of karma. What goes around comes around. A year and a half before that, the 2 brothers got a claim out from under me. Now they know what it feels like to lose a claim. The difference is, mine was unproven, did not have a hole on it, whereas theirs well and truly was. They cried like babies when they lost it. I laughed my head off. Now you do get leases here, and they vary in size. Some of them are 1 kilometre square. Your lease will last for 30 days. In that 30 days, you take your prospect drill out, and they're generally 9-inch diameter. You try to get as many holes down as possible. After the 30 days, there's a grace period where you can register claims, other people as well. Then that lease will be up for grabs again. But a 9-inch hole, it's a very little look in a lot of dirt. Out at Dooley's, we drilled a number of 9-inch holes in one of our claims, didn't bring anything up. We tunnel over to it for an air connection one day, and 2 inches away from that 9-inch hole, gem quality opal. You've got to be lucky to bring it up on a 9-inch drill. Seam, of course, is a lot easier to find than knobbies. You might get a good cluster of these knobbies in one little spot, 25 or 50 in one spot. That's a pocket and we're all looking for it. If it's got really good colour in it, that can put you on easy street straight away. But like I said before, usually you're just being teased. You can see by the floor it's fairly damp. Nobody lives underground here at Lightning Ridge. If they tell you we do set them straight, that's a White Cliffs and Cooper Petey thing. If you tried to sleep down here, you're betting it'd go mouldy for a start. Steel will rust away in no time. You'd breathe in too much moisture. You'd probably end up with pleurosil pneumonia for sure. Lovely place to have lunch in the middle of summer, but you cannot live down here. White Cliffs and Cooper Petey, they were under that inland sea. Their sandstone's been compressed a lot more than ours. We were just on the edge of that sea. Head on around that way please guys. Area, especially off to the north and the west. They do take a fair bit of weight. Some of these bigger ones will take from 16 to 18 tonne each. I've had to work practice every now and then to put the odd little skinny one in as a warning prop. Big ones are happy standing there. Sandstone will collapse around them and they're still standing there. Whereas the little skinny ones, they'll bow, they'll snap in half, but they'll still hold the weight of sandstone. They do give you a good warning. You'll even hear them creak, groan and crack. Most of the old miners, they believed opal was only ever from the bottom of the sandstone to 2.5, 3 foot from the sandstone. They dug drives that high, crawled around on their hands and knees, sometimes laying on their belly, gouging on their side. They believed there was no opal in the floor. They were wrong. Some of the best opal I've ever found was around my ankles in height. So it does make me wonder how much opal the old miners crawled over in the past. Probably a fair bit, especially in what we call the gun claims, the highly producing ones. All right. Now, not only do we have these blows that push up into the roof, but there are fault lines as well, where the ground's moved in the past. They go right to the surface, right down to the artesian basin. There's a small fault line in the roof here, and it's that white line that runs right across, all the way across the roof. In the past, the roof has broken and shifted. It's slid upon itself. Now that's only tiny. They don't all produce opal, but they're good indicators. Out at the Cookeran, there was a major fault line there. Millions of years ago, the ground slipped, created a Z fault, changed the height in the roof from one side to the other by 3 to 4 metres, and it ran for 9 or 10 claims in length. Everybody along it found a little or a lot. The ones off to the side found a little or none. We're off to the side. We got about 40,000 out of our claim. It's not much by the time you divide that between a couple of workers and pay your fuel cost. The miners that were right next to me with a common boundary, they got $12 million. They had the major fault line, we didn't. Now every Saturday we'd tail our wash plant out, and it's an old ready mix cement mixer that we used to wash our dirt with. We'd have a little Tupperware container for our opal. The boys that got the 12 million, every Saturday they were filling 5 and 6 of those plastic tubs. And there are 11 gates to open to get out to that field when it was first discovered. It's a wonder they weren't robbed on the way back. If somebody would have walked out of the bush and held them up, they would have gone home with a lot of unprocessed opal. Most people in town wondered why it didn't happen. There are quite a few rogues around the ridge, and the prospect of easy money, that does attract them. But I will tell you now, opal mining is some of the hardest, easy money you will ever make. It truly is. Now you do get a run where you can follow the opal underground. The longest run I've had was 35 or 40 metres in length. It was on the boundary of 2 claims. I teamed up with a neighbour. We took the boundary out together. The opal was pooled, sold and divided. There were no arguments on going over the boundary. If you go into the neighbour's claim without permission, you can be charged with illegal mining and end up in court. I can put my hand up for that one too. At Emus 3, the senior partner came downstairs, got on the hydraulic digger, and quite by accident, he went into the neighbour's claim, 1.5 metres in by 1.5 metres wide. 3 months later, we got a summons to go to court, and the lady that owned the claim next to us, she wanted compensation. She wanted $10,000 from each miner, and there were 4 of us involved. We got a camera and a solicitor. We went back out to the claim. When we got underground, that 1.5 metre square intrusion had turned into a 2.5 metre intrusion. The cheeky lady sent her sons down with a jackhammer before court to make it bigger, to try and make it look worse for us. They weren't thinking clearly. Jackhammers leave little holes in the wall like some of those there, and diggers, they leave big scratch marks down the face from the teeth. We took pictures of both. We showed the magistrate. He knew what she was trying to do. He threw it out of court and ordered her to pay our court costs. It backfired dramatically because each of us was supposed to pay our solicitor $1,800. The lady didn't like the ruling. She came up after court and said, "Do you remember those little cupcakes I gave you?" "Yeah." She said, "I should have put some cyanide on them." Now we started laughing. I don't drink, and the Diggers Rest pub hadn't burnt down, but I walked straight across the road to the pub that day and bought a celebratory bourbon. It was a lot better and a lot cheaper than giving the lady $10,000. Mind you, if she hadn't sent her sons down with a jackhammer before court, we probably would have had to pay the money. Just as well for us, she was greedy. Every now and then in the darkness, they might have hit a stone. Different sound on your pick. They would have heard that clink or ring. They would have lit their candle again. If it was red, it would have gone straight in their pocket. If it was blue-green like that, over their shoulder. They couldn't sell blue-green opal in the early days. We can sell everything today. It just takes a matter of time.
Don't ask any questions, don't snoop around his claim. He'll be out with a dog and a shotgun. Who knows what he's hiding, or why he makes his stand. Men like him are buried alive with opals in their hands. Well, they say he came from Lismore, that's about all we know. He came for a weekend only 20 years ago. Well, he must have had money in the bank, where he's found a lot more than potch. For every month he sends a cab for another case of scotch. He's a dreamer, he's a drinker, a bull ant in a hole. He's a schemer, he's a thinker, he's a lonely soul. He's gouging for the opal like a wombat or a mole, way out there at Lightning Ridge. Blow the bimble box, get your thrill on Lunatic Hill. Flashes of dancing colour, green and gold and red. Mix it with black and you're on your back, digging until you're dead. Well, it's not about a fancy car, it's not about the cash. They passed the hat for a swimming pool and built it in a flash. No, it's all about the opal. You get it in your eye, you see a glimpse of heaven with angels in the sky. And you're a dreamer, you're a drinker, a bull and in a hole. You're a schemer, you're a thinker, you're a lonely soul. You're gouging for the opal like a wombat or a mole, way out there at Lightning Ridge. Sing with me. He's a dreamer, he's a drinker, a bull and in a hole. He's a schemer, he's a thinker, he's a lonely soul. He's gouging for the opal like a wombat or a mole, way out there at Lightning Ridge. Way out there at Lightning Ridge. I've been around the world a couple of times or maybe more, seen the sights, I've had delights on every foreign shore. But when my mates all ask me the place that I adore, I tell them right away. What do we tell them? Give me a home among the gum trees with lots of plum trees, a sheep, a two, a kangaroo, a clothesline out the back, veranda out the front, and an old rocking
Last
chair.
car door tour, the green
You
one.
can see me in the kitchen cooking up a roast or Vegemite on toast, just you and me, a cup of tea. Later on we'll settle down and go out on the porch and watch the possums play. Give me a home among the gum trees with lots of plum trees, a sheep, a two, a kangaroo, a clothesline out the back, veranda out the front, and an old rocking chair. There's a Safeways up the corner and a Woolies down the street, and a brand new place they've opened up, but they regulate the heat. But I trade them all tomorrow for a little bush retreat with a kookaburra's call. Give me a home among the gum trees.